Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. I'm your host, Mari Riesberg. Over the past several years, I've combined my degrees in acting and somatic psychology to share my sustaining creativity techniques with performers. And now I've decided to share it with a bigger audience that includes you. I believe we are all creative, and this podcast is all about that. I'll be interviewing people from all backgrounds, ages, and creativity experiences to share just how creative we all are. Today, I'll be chatting with Ian Chamandy, Chief Purpose Officer of PurposeU. Please enjoy Ian Chamandy. Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. Today, I'm here with Ian Chamandy, Chief Purpose Officer of PurposeU. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Mari.
I'm super excited to chat with you about creativity and purpose. But before we get into that, if you wouldn't mind taking a couple of minutes to let our listeners know a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Sure. Well, personally, Ian, I'm here in Toronto, and I have an ex-wife who we're like brother and sister now, and we share a son, and that's who I am personally.
Mm-hmm.
I got into this business, right? The business of purpose, through a corporate company that I have. And so I started this company 20 years ago with my partner. Sadly, he died during COVID.
Oh, wow.
But what we do is we define what makes a company uniquely remarkable in 7 words or less, and then have it guide everything the company does and everything the company says, right? So now you have the one thing at your root as a company that makes you uniquely remarkable being the strategic driver of everything you do and everything you say. And then during COVID, I knew that this business was not, we weren't going to get any business for 18 months to 2 years. And so I decided to get my coaching certification. And when I went out, hung out my shingle, I was a generic coach.
Yeah.
Which bothered me. So, but I knew I'm sitting there saying, I wonder how the marketplace is going to talk to me and tell me to specialize. And it happened in the very first call with a prospect where he said, the pandemic has got me rethinking my life, and I don't like my career, and I want to live a life of meaning and purpose.
Yeah.
I said, that's awesome. What's your purpose? And he said, I don't know. So it made me realize I could take this behemoth that I had co-created here for companies, and I could strip out the stuff that only pertained to companies, add a little stuff in that pertained to an individual, and voila, over here, we now have an individual blueprint. And I would work one-on-one with my clients to define their what makes them uniquely remarkable. In 7 words or less. That's our standard. And that's your purpose. And that's and then I would do my coaching through the filter of their purpose, because they knew who they were and what they stood for. And now we had a shared context that post our conversations, he could go out and create with all sorts of other people.
Right.
Because purpose is only 7 words or less. It's really simple, really powerful, and it resonates with him on a deep emotional level.
Yeah.
And so that's how I got into the purpose business, because I realized that, when I changed this corporate product to individual, and then, we're defining what makes you uniquely remarkable as an individual in 7 words or less. There's a great Picasso quote where he says, the meaning of life is to find your gift, and your purpose is to share it. And I re-articulated that into the meaning of life is to find your gift and share it. And so if you agree with that, the meaning of life is to find your gift. I just say what makes you uniquely remarkable. The thing that makes you uniquely remarkable is your gift.
Yeah.
And share it with the world.
I love it.
So then what I did, so I realized, okay, so now this individual thing over here that I had created from the corporate, wherever
Mhm.
employee, um, is uh, is all about purpose. And I went, oh, okay. So I went back to the corporate one and I said, wait a sec, that's of course same thing, right? If I'm
Mhm.
defining what makes a corporation uniquely remarkable, that's its gift.
Yeah.
And then they share it with the world through how they operate and how they
Mm.
communicate. So that's the story of how I got to where I am today.
I love it. I love the repurposing of experiences and purpose and all of that, and how it really does intertwine and weave so well within the world of creativity. I can only imagine how much creativity goes into finding the 7 words or less to how people describe their purpose and organizations describe it as well. I'm curious, when you think about creativity and purpose, what does it mean to you to be creative?
Um, Being creative to me means being able to come up with stuff,
Mm.
make connections so that either something new is created
Mhm.
or something it is clever that is needed in that moment, right?
Hmm.
A solution to a problem.
Yeah,
But it is the ability to bring elements together to create something new,
I love
right?
it.
And
Yeah.
when I think of fine art, right?
Mhm.
Every artist is taking in all of their life experience
Mhm.
and they're putting that together in their own unique way.
Yeah.
And most of us put that together by going out to work every morning and toiling and then coming home at night and that sort of thing. But they put it together in a way that creates wonder, where you
Mhm.
look at it and just, wow, how like there's a Picasso painting. It's called Arse.
Mhm.
It's a woman from behind.
Mhm.
It's 3 lines, and he just does 3 lines, and all of a sudden, the whole figure of the woman appears.
Yeah.
And it's the brilliance of him to look at a woman's body and say, I can draw that whole thing, that entire thing,
Mm.
in 3 lines.
Mhm.
Sort of like, I don't know if they use macros anymore, but you just draw a little bit and it poofs up into a lot, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm answering your question. I'm
You
just
absolutely are. It is. And it's making me think of other questions and wondering about, kind of like if Picasso had were to describe purpose in 7 words or less in his art, what would it be? But
his
since
purpose was not art, by the way.
yeah,
Art was the expression of his purpose,
right.
right? I
Yeah.
think I think so can I tell you how I think purpose influences creativity?
Absolutely. Please
Okay.
do.
So I have to share mine for
Yeah.
you with you then. And remember, the standard is 7 words or less.
Hmm.
And and the thing is, it's not a lot of words, but usually it's expressed in 2 or 3 or 4.
Okay.
So mine is transforming confusion into clarity.
Transforming confusion into clarity. All right.
Yeah. Now that does two. So I have a talent, if I can be immodest.
Mhm.
You know, when companies have really complex problems, they've been wrestling with them internally, can't come up with an answer. Um, what I have is an ability to facilitate a process, right? It's not me, I'm not the big brain solving
Mhm.
their problem, right?
Sure.
But I have a way of conducting a facilitated process that, and here's what the dirty little secret of it is. It's just deconstructing. You've got a big complex problem up here. I deconstruct it into smaller pieces. And when you deconstruct it into those smaller pieces, does a self-evident answer pop out? That's really important, a really important standard, a self-evident standard, not one that you had to work, really hard to come up with, and you got to twist yourself into pretzel to rationalize. No. And if it doesn't happen there, deconstruct more, deconstruct more. And I don't care if I have to go down 100 levels to get to self-evident. But at some point, the answer pops out, and it is self-evident. Everybody, oh yeah, that's it. So that's my talent, right? What my purpose does is it recognizes my ability to deconstruct, to come up with a self-evident answer. Because it describes the before and the after, from transforming confusion into clarity. But it also directs me. It directs my thinking. It gives me more intentionality as I'm trying to come up with, I can't look at a canvas and come up with a creative solution or facilitate a creative solution. But I can look at disjointed logic and figure out, on my corporate website, I have a bunch of video testimonials there. And one of my clients talks about how she had a marionette that was so beautiful, but over the years, the strings got tangled. She thought she had to throw the marionette out and invent a new one. And then, we came along, Ken and I, and she said, and they slowly detangled the strings until, it was all perfect again. And I said, oh my God, my marionette is still beautiful. But it's the slow, grinding, laborious process of detangling, or what I call it is deconstructing. And I think, when we think of creativity, think of poof, oh, great idea, or oh, that, painting is beautiful, that photograph, that whatever, right? But if you ask people who are creative what the creativity process is, it's grinding. It's grinding. So in the Eagles documentary that's on Netflix, and if you haven't seen it, it's fabulous. Glenn Fry talks about having the flat above Jackson Browne in LA when he moved to LA. And Jackson Browne, by the time he was 20, he'd already been a professional songwriter for 4 years, pumping out songs for other people. And Glenn Fry said, I learned how to write songs by listening to Jackson through the floor, because every morning at 9 o'clock, the tea kettle would scream, he'd pour his tea and he'd sit down at the piano. And he would work a song for the next 3 hours solid. Work it, grind. And what Jackson's doing is he's got an idea and he's deconstructing it in all sorts of different ways and putting it back together to see which way works the best. So there is so much rigor and discipline and grinding to creativity, but we think of it as this blinding flash of brilliance, and it's not that at all.
Absolutely. I love that story first, and that reminder that the creativity expression that we see often on film or television or in an artistic place is the end product. We don't see the grind that happens.
Yes.
Absolutely. So I'm curious, because your work is around purpose, and we're here to talk about creativity, how does purpose elevate creativity?
Well, it's part of what I was just telling you is that first of all, however you are creative, right? And I think everybody is creative in their own way. Most people don't think they're creative,
right?
And most people don't recognize their creativity.
Yeah.
But when you articulate your purpose in 7 words or less, all of a sudden, you've just articulated your superpower, your superpower,
Mm-hmm.
right? And now it's conscious,
Yeah.
and nobody can ever take it away from you.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the toothpaste is out of the tube, but what it
Mm-hmm.
means is that you can go out looking for opportunities
Mm-hmm.
to apply your what did I just call it? Your not your secret sauce, your superpower,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I don't know if Paul McCartney can paint, but maybe he can't do stick people,
Mm-hmm.
but he can do music.
Yeah.
And all he's saying is, okay, I'm a creative person and I channel it to music because that's where I know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know your purpose, now you can say, okay, I know where to channel my superpower, which is my,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Knowing that purpose really frees you up to express and explore whatever it is that you're doing.
In your area of specialization as
Yeah.
articulated by your purpose, right?
Yeah.
My area of specialization for my creativity is not painting.
Mm-hmm.
My area of specialization is taking logic gaps that create a mess of a thought or a concept or
Mm-hmm.
a situation, and identify them all and shut them down. So now you've got a beautiful circle. Totally
Mm.
lovely. I
Yeah.
think in that process, I apply a lot of creativity
Mm-hmm.
because first of all, I have to do things like I have to invent exercises in the moment,
Right.
right? Um, because the exercise, I'm actually working with a client right now, and I had to figure out a way to draw their business model.
Hmm.
Because it's not like you can draw the business model as a corporate hierarchy or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do a visual representation that I knew that they didn't know their business model.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to try to figure out how to do a visual representation of their business model where they sat there when I presented it to them for the first time and said, "Holy cow, yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's what we do." But they just never were able to conceptualize it so simply and so
Yeah.
clearly. Now,
Yeah.
you know, no one's going to want to listen to any of that on Spotify or come out and, hear me wax poetic about it on stage at, Madison Square Garden. But that's my way of applying my creativity.
Yeah. And you never
Your
know.
purpose identifies it and then allows you to direct it.
I love that. Absolutely. I'm so curious. Knowing that you 20 years ago started this business and then during COVID, the next iteration of it, when you think about your life, what is your earliest memory of being creative?
Well, I'd have to say it was in a business sense. I
Yeah.
don't know. This is maybe more initiative than creativity. I have to say that my opportunity to exercise the creativity I really wanted to exercise
Uh-huh.
never happened.
No. Okay.
So I immerse myself in it now, but it's music.
Mm-hmm.
Music. I'm a child of the 60s.
Yeah.
Classic rock is my foundation, although I like a lot of other kinds of music as well.
Mm-hmm.
And, so I'm just, if I had it to do all over again, I play guitar now. I'd
Yeah.
start playing guitar at 10 and I would play 4 hours a day.
Mm.
Because
Yeah.
I'm watching bands where I actually grew up with a band with, one of the biggest bands in Canada is called Blue Rodeo.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew those guys in high school, and they didn't play instruments back then, and yet they're great musicians now and fabulous, fabulous. Do you know Rush?
Yeah.
Canadian band Rush?
Mm-hmm.
They started playing instruments when they were like 15, 16, 17. You didn't have to start when you were 8.
Right. Right.
I should have done that.
Mm. Yeah, looking
So,
back.
pardon me?
Looking
Yeah,
back
looking back
at,
with regret. Yes. Yes, I
yeah.
wanted to write music. I wanted to perform music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it is so interesting the things that we wanted to do when we were younger that didn't come to fruition for whatever reason. And now looking back as adults, how we would have, what would you have told your younger self in those moments, in that pivotal moment where music wasn't pursued and you chose to do something different?
Yeah, you know what? It would have to, what I would have had to tell myself is not pursue music. I would have had to tell myself to just keep fighting because I
Ah,
would have had to fight tooth and nail
yeah.
down that road
Mm-hmm.
because I went down the path that was fully expected of me. You know, I finished high school, I went to university, I got a degree, I went out into the work world.
Yeah. The path of least resistance.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Going back
Yeah.
to going back to Rush, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there is a fantastic video that you can do a search on online.
Mm-hmm.
So the guitar player is Alex Lifeson.
Mm-hmm.
In this video, Alex Lifeson, who's my age now, but he's 18. He's got a girlfriend and a baby,
Mm-hmm.
and he's sitting at the kitchen table at his parents' place where he lived.
Mm-hmm.
And his parents and a bunch of relatives are sitting around the table, and he's explaining to them that he wants to quit high school to become a rock and roll star. And they're all saying, and as a parent, I can totally see it. They're saying, just finish high school. Just get your high school degree so that
Right.
if you don't become a rock star, you have something to fall back on.
Mm-hmm.
His hair is halfway down his back, and he's no, 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 and you can tell he's like all depressed, and it's the world against me and that sort of thing. And look what happened because he
Yeah.
kept fighting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It takes a very, I want to say, like, it could be stubborn or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
hard-headed and
Southern courage. Yeah, yeah,
someone who really knows themselves to some degree about what they want to do and how they want to do it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's very fascinating to just think about what people see as their purpose and how they go about doing it versus someone who may not know what their purpose is and how they go about figuring out what it is and those different paths and the creativity that goes into both of them.
Well, one of the ways that I describe that, right,
Mm-hmm.
is if you accept that everybody has untapped creativity that
Mm-hmm.
they can express,
Yeah.
and if you buy what I'm saying, that your purpose, inside of your purpose, that's articulated. Um, let's say my business partner and I were employees at a company.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody knew that my purpose was transforming confusion into clarity, and everybody knew his was causing wow,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what Ken did. He caused wow.
Mm-hmm.
If you had a really difficult problem, you're a coworker, right? You and your team have a really difficult problem. You're having trouble getting a resolution to it, and these are two guys. There's a couple of offices down the hall. One's from confusion to clarity. The other is causing wow. Which one do you go to? Well, of course, you go to transforming confusion into clarity. And then I'm going to be able to sort of channel my from confusion to clarity, creativity on your problem.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a beautiful plan that lacks sex appeal,
Mm-hmm.
whose door do you knock on?
creating wows door.
Oh, yeah, of course,
Yeah.
of course. You know, and
Mm-hmm.
so people know when to come to you, and you
Mm-hmm.
know when to say yes and when to say no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Purpose is important.
Yes, yes.
It's
You know,
very important.
well, I think it's important. There's two reasons, and there's an order of priority here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think most people go through life thinking there's nothing special about them.
Mm-hmm.
They might at times think there is something, but nobody would believe it, and it's not really that important. And even, I don't know if I believe it. And as a friend of mine says, they live on a small napkin as a result. I don't like the fact that they don't recognize their value,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And nobody should go through life not knowing what your superpower is, because you've
Mm-hmm.
got one and it's yours.
Yeah.
And so for that alone is a reason for me in my mind why
Mm-hmm.
everybody should try and figure out their purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Because your confidence goes from here to here. And
Yeah.
take it away from you.
Yeah. So for people who are maybe struggling to find purpose or understand purpose, what's like the first step that they can take, or a small tip on taking that first step towards finding purpose?
Sure. Well, I'll give you two answers. One is self-serving and one isn't.
Beautiful.
So I'll give you the not self-serving one first. When clients come to me, and that's whether it's a corporate client or an individual one,
Mm-hmm.
and they say, what should I do to prepare?
Mm.
And I say, consider this question. If everything you do is a means to an end, what's your end purpose? And what it forces you to do is it forces you to say, okay, all this stuff, I thought this was my, this was the end purpose of me, is everything that I do. But no, 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 no. Those are expressions of your
Mm.
purpose, right? Bruce Springsteen standing on stage singing a song, playing guitar, is an expression of his purpose, but his purpose is not guitar,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
not music.
Mm.
Music is the expression. I heard a great metaphor. There was a book that I had to read in university, and it was called Gödel, Escher, and Bach. Gödel is a German mathematician who came up with a theorem that sort of rocked the math, not just the math world, but also the philosophy and logic world.
Mm-hmm.
Escher is the artist that we all had, in our university dorms.
Mm-hmm.
And Bach is the guy who's, he's come up with a few good songs himself.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a prof at Northwestern University who wrote this book. And he said, those are three shadows that are cast from the same stone. So although they're three entirely different things,
Mm-hmm.
they have the same source. And his book attempted to describe the source.
Mm.
So I'm going to borrow that metaphor and say, when you know your purpose, that's the stone.
Mm.
And then everything that you do from that point on becomes a shadow cast from that stone. There's a
Mm.
consistency to everything you do,
Mm-hmm.
because the source, the stone, is the same to
Mm.
everything. And so when you think of somebody like Springsteen, who has so many talents, he can write songs, he can sing songs, he can play guitar, he can run a corporation, Bruce Springsteen Inc. He can
Mm-hmm.
lead a band. Like, these are all huge
Yeah.
capabilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're all shadows cast from the
Mm.
stone. And it would be interesting to know what his stone is.
Yeah. So how do you find your stone? What's the step?
Oh, right. Okay. So first thing is, ask the question, if everything I do is a means to an end, what's the end purpose? And then you've got to think about, what's the common thread to my life,
Mm.
everything in my life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the self-serving answer is at the bottom of my screen there. It's PurposeU. So I've just designed a university style course
Mm-hmm.
to where I lead you step by step through a process to reveal your purpose and articulate it in 7 words or less. So
Fantastic.
PurposeU is like Purpose University, right?
Sure.
And you can see the web address down there.
Yep.
If you go, you said small steps. That's all you can take at this point. If you go to that URL, there's a landing page there that says coming in fall 2024. So the course is not launched yet, or not as of the recording of this. And but if you go to that landing page and enter your email, you will get a notice as soon as the course starts up.
Fantastic.
So those are the 2 steps you can take. One you can do right now, start contemplating that question, and then the other is go to the website and enter your email. And it's a really interesting journey into yourself.
I can only imagine. I'm so curious. I will definitely be putting my email address in there so you can let me know when the course comes out. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. I just have one last question. What does it feel like in your body to be creative?
In my body, it's exciting. Right? Like where I express creativity in art the most is playing lead guitar.
Nice.
Because I have no idea where I'm going when I play lead.
Yeah.
And I have no idea how I decide where to go. I'm hearing and reacting and hearing and reacting. But I'm no Clapton. but I like what I produce sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's really catchy. I kind of like that. And I think other people would, if I could turn that into a song or something like that. So I started doing that. And where that started, by the way, if your audience want a masterclass in creativity, watch the Beatles documentary on Apple.
Yes, absolutely.
3-hour episodes, and you will see the birth of songs they'll be listening to 1,000 years from now. So what the documentary is about is the making of the album Abbey Road, I believe. And they come in with little tiny clips of ideas.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
And then they develop them before your eyes. You are watching the birth of some of the greatest songs ever written. Hey Jude, Revolution, Get Back, Across the Universe.
Pretty spectacular to
birth. It's like watching a National Geographic show for music.
I love it. Well, I love hearing the excitement that you have for the music and creativity and purpose all wrapped up together. It's been such a treat chatting with you. If you want to remind people once more where they can get in touch with you, find you, social media, websites.
Sure. It is appearing at the bottom of my screen, right? It's not just me.
It is appearing.
So PurposeU, right? Like Purpose University, PurposeU.co.
Great.
Go there, enter your email address. We'll let you know when the course launches.
Perfect. I'll also put it in show notes so people have easy access. And thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. Thanks for listening to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. We'd love to keep in touch, so follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We are at Sustaining Creativity. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Tag your friends and family so they can listen too. We love to hear from you, so leave your reviews, comments, and questions. Check out our website, sustainingcreativity.com, for upcoming offerings and creativity coaching. Tune in Tuesdays for our next episode. And remember, with creativity, anything's possible.